We literally held hands and jumped off a cliff. Is what we did.
You and Dad.
It's not easy to marry young, but at some point, we just have to live. We have to move forward with the hurts, the pains, the tools, the lack of tools.
What would be your best advice for marriage?
Oh, boy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Lila Rose Show. I'm very excited today. My favorite guest I have ever had in studio is here with me, my own beautiful mother. And I've been asking her to come on the show for now, really since we started, almost 2 years. And she has been a difficult guest to book because she is very busy doing a lot of very beautiful and important things. There's so much that I learn every single day from my mother, just watching her example. And so I really wanted her on the show to talk about her background a little bit and the way she approaches life. She has 8 children. She had 4 miscarriages. She has over 20 grandchildren. She has been married to my father for over 40 years. There's just a whole wealth of knowledge there that I've gleaned from. So I wanted to share it with you guys. And she said she might do it again, depending on how it goes, I guess. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and that you like this video, leave a comment. Love hearing from you always. Also, we will be doing a Q&A with you guys. A lot of you left your questions on social media because I said, hey, my mom's in studio. What do you want to ask her? Had a lot of questions for her. So we're going to be doing a 30-minute Q&A session with questions from you guys with my mom. That is exclusively available over at rosereport.supercast.com for our subscribers and our community there. So go sign up at rosereport.supercast.com for that 30-minute Q&A with my one and only mom. You're my favorite guest I've ever had on the podcast.
And I'm your biggest fan.
Oh. So my mom is you are in the comment section sometimes on the show, right? You've left.
Of course,
yes.
Of course.
You want to give away your username or no?
No.
Okay. Mom, I love you. Thanks for doing this.
This is not anything I would have imagined would ever take place.
Oh, I've been asking her. When did I first ask you to come on the show? Probably over a year ago at the beginning.
Yes.
At the beginning. So 2 years later, almost now, we get her here.
Well, just thinking about you growing up, if anyone ever told me that we would be doing this later in life, I would be, no way. But
you'd be
here
like,
we
not
are.
my crazy daughter.
Yeah, here we are. It's all good.
Mom, well, first of all, you're in town. We're both in SoCal right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to just say this because one of the things I most admire about you is how incredibly devoted you are to not just your husband, not just your kids, but also your grandkids. And I am a beneficiary of that, having 3 of your grandkids. But you have a lot more than 3 grandkids. So anyways, what brought you to Southern California this time around?
Well, this time, your dear brother had his 7th child. And of course, we always like to go in proximity to the birth and just kind of help out as best we can. And your dad is very amenable to doing that. And he picks up the heavier toddlers when we babysit because my back is a little bit delicate. So Dad is very involved and just excited about having so many grandchildren born and coming. And
how many are you at now?
We will be 21 in a few weeks.
21 grandkids.
Yeah. So God is good.
And then how many kids do you have?
I have 8 children. You're my 3rd, and there's 4 in heaven. And so, yeah, it's a full life.
Yeah.
Yeah, many, many blessings.
So and you came to town because Bob, my brother, what is this, number 5, right? Or he's number 5. So there's 5 boys, the 3 girls.
Yes.
I'm the eldest girl, and then Bob's the 4th oldest boy. He's the second to last boy. Bob.
Yes.
But he just had his 7th child. It's 7 under 9, right? Is your child the oldest? So you're helping out with like basically 4 toddlers, 4 babies and toddlers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you have the energy to do everything you do, Mom? I marvel at you.
I think it's just a gift. Something that I've noticed as I've grown older is that people have different gifts. And one of my gifts, which I believe is God-given, is just extra energy. I can go on not as much sleep as maybe others would need. And it's not something that I'm really proud of. It's just something that I'm grateful for, that I can get up and just be wide awake, and which is useful when you have a lot of children to be awake in the morning. So
yeah, you're the early bird.
Yeah,
riser.
also grandchildren as well. It's helpful when mama needs to rest and grandma's there to help with the kids.
Yeah, Mom, you're so selfless. My sister, my youngest sister, just got engaged. Your daughter, Nina, our baby Nina. But anyways, I have to just share with our listeners. So you came down here to help with the new baby. Your other son's, new baby, number 7. Nina was also in town. She just got engaged. Anyway, so that's very exciting. But she was in town, and you came over, and I don't think I'd seen you yet. You'd been here like 3 days helping out at Bob's house. You come over, you immediately get there. She starts basically cleaning my kitchen and tidying up. And then Nina and I are just sitting there with all my kids. And you're like, oh, you and Nina, go get your nails done. And I'll watch, I'll sit with them. Well, Gigi had just gone down for a nap. You guys just go get your nails done and I'll watch the kids. I mean, just immediately wanting, just serving.
Well, it was really a special time to spend with your boys, because having homeschooled all of you and then working with grandchildren as they learn to read and do math and all of that, it's really, really special.
So one of my goals in life, Mom, is to be as loving and generous as you are. And you have always been that way ever since I was a little girl. Every memory I have of you is generosity. I'm going to start crying, talking about this. So one of my goals in life is to be as loving as you and generous as you, and sacrificial as you. I mean, you don't have a selfless bone. You don't have a selfish bone in your body. You are just very, very selfless.
That's a little too much.
It's true. It's true. This is your daughter saying this. This is my experience of you. So it's what I know to be true. I'd love to hear, and just for our podcast listeners, what it was in your childhood and just in your life that gave you your worldview of being so focused on the gifts of and the needs of other people. Because, and I also would love to hear, I'm kind of putting on a lot here, but you are also good about caring for yourself, though. Sometimes you push it too far. You don't take care of yourself enough, I would argue, but you are devoted to, your physical health. You work out, you get your the back thing, whatever it's called, that you osteopath. Osteostrong. You've always been focused on your spiritual and personal development. I mean, I remember looking at you had all these books growing up about how to be a better wife. You had books growing up about how to be a better mother. You were obviously homeschooling us. So you were always devoted on learning and growing. So it's not like you were just endlessly selfless to the point of like self-harm. You were just always how do I be a better woman, a better mother, better wife, help my kids grow. And you had books everywhere, and you had, church groups and, Bible studies. I mean, it was all part of the package, right? So I guess what I'm asking is, and I know my parents, my grandparents, your parents, but how is it that you got to be that way? What
goodness. This is a big question. Well,
you told me not to tell you beforehand what I was going to ask. She forbade me from She forbade me from giving her any kind of information before, because you just wanted to come in and not overthink it. I know.
Well, I think growing up in the home that I grew up, which was a multi-generational home, I had my Italian grandparents living with us. I had siblings, and then an aunt and uncle with cousins as well. My mother, who passed 2.5 years ago, was very special. She loved people. She was an extrovert who welcomed our friends, welcomed her own family, organized family events. She didn't have much education, but she gave all that she had. And that was my model, was my mom. And I miss her, as you can imagine. But just being in our home, I never had to tell her if somebody was coming for dinner. There was always room for whoever we brought home. our home was like the nucleus. People wanted to spend time with our family and our cousins, and having grandma and grandpa upstairs was extra special. So I guess my mom was my model for the service part. Plus, she had lots of energy. She loved to cook. She loved to, that was her love language, to cook meals for us and for our friends. And they all loved her food. And she was very eager to include us in that process. So we adopted that as well.
She was
making meals for
cook.
people. That was fun.
As
and
are you.
She loved to organize events. And in her life, it was more, let's get the cousins together. In my life, as I grew, it was, let's organize homeschool group and let's have a co-op. So I used the gifts that I got from her to sort of make them my own and do things that would help my family to grow and to thrive. And that was one way, was the homeschooling events and homeschooling co-op, and which eventually became the Live Oak Academy.
7 Weeks Coffee is America's pro-life coffee company on a mission to fund the pro-life movement, one delicious cup of coffee at a time. And they check every box. This is pesticide-free, mold-free, organically farmed, low-acid coffee that is absolutely delicious. 7 Weeks Coffee donates 10% of every single sale, including the sale you can make today, to pro-life pregnancy centers. And because coffee always tastes better with a free gift, if you go to 7weekscoffee.com today and subscribe using the code Lila at checkout, you'll get a free 2-pack of their new travel bags to take your coffee wherever life takes you. And exclusively for the listeners of this show, you can go to 7weekscoffee.com. You can use the code Lila at checkout to get up to 25% off your first purchase, as well as your free gift. That's something I remember too, with the generosity and everything growing up, but that you possess, and you and dad, your dad's that way too. Dad's very generous. But when the homeschool co-op that you developed, I mean, we were all 8 of us were homeschooled, which was super fun and amazing. I'm so grateful for that too. But you started all that. You started the co-op. You started all, Clash Debate Club. You started Clash Debate Club.
I was part of it. Yeah.
You say part of it, but you were one of the founding families, or the instigator, and like that energy and also administrative skills, because you have all these administrative skills that made all of these things possible in the community. And I know, like, a lot of people that love you and know you, your friends, people that are my friends that admire you, they always kind of marvel at all of the things that you just can do. But you do it all with such this like generous, self-giving spirit.
Well, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because, like I said, my mom was a people person and I am a people person as well. And so organizing things increases your opportunity to spend time with people. And so I'm very grateful that the homeschooling allowed me to develop friendships with the parents of the other children that we homeschooled with. And that was just such a blessing. And these are friends that I have to this day, decades long friendships.
Your Lit Club ladies.
Lit Club ladies and other families that we homeschooled with through Live Oak Academy. It's been wonderful. So when what's good for your children can line up with what feeds your soul as well, it's an extra blessing. And I think that I notice in your podcast, you've talked about gifts and how to develop those gifts, and which is a beautiful thing to explore. And in my view, when your gifts line up with what you really love and what can really serve your family and other people in your life, when it all kind of comes together, it's a beautiful thing.
Did you, when you were starting your family, our family with my dad, your husband, did you have a sense like, okay, my gifts are big, like, generosity, bringing people together, organizing things, coming up with ideas? Or was that just kind of a natural evolution of you and dad building your life together?
That's a good question. I think we got married fairly young, as you know, and we had children right away. 9 months to the day after we were married, we had a child. So I don't think I was as self-aware as maybe you were when you married, because you married a little bit later. So I think you were a lot more mature, you and your husband, than Dad and I were, being so young. But having children and living that, quote, married life gave an opportunity to grow in my own self-awareness. So I discovered who I was as I nurtured my family and explored, how to be married well, which of course takes decades to accomplish, to be married well, and to have a successful, functional relationship. That takes a long time. It takes a lot of work. But I think all those things kind of happened at the same time. Self-awareness, discovering my gifts, having children, being married to your dad and discovering who he was and how to get along and flourish. And it does take a lifetime to learn how to live. My dad always used to say, by the time you're 90 or plus, which he was 99 when he passed, he would say, you finally learn how to live. It was very sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm learning how to live. Of course, we're all learning how to live. But I think one of the things that I admire about you and Dad is that you went all in from the beginning. You met and you got married within, what was it, 5 months?
Mm-hmm.
It was a very whirlwind romance. Had a baby right away. Again, the modern advice today is don't, fools rush in. Like don't commit so quickly. Build your career, build your, whatever, your life up, and then go, once you have things figured out, then you go and have kids, then you go and get married, then you go and do these other things. And you are the living story of, no, you just say yes and you go all in, and then you're devoted, and you figure it out as you go together.
Well, we literally held hands and jumped off a cliff. Is what we did.
You and Dad.
I don't know. As you know, I don't recommend that.
Right.
And I haven't recommended it.
To your daughters, you would be like, don't do that. Don't do what we did. It worked out for you and Dad, though.
But one thing that we were certain of was we would never let go of each other. So, and it wasn't easy. It's not easy to marry young and hardly know who you are. We knew we had faith. Faith was that was a given. We knew that we wanted to serve together. We weren't quite sure how. We met at a missions conference at a evangelical / Protestant missions class. That's where we met. And we thought we were going to be missionaries.
You are missionaries, Mom.
Missionaries in a foreign land.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, God had other ideas for us. And so we jumped off the cliff together, and we're still holding hands, even though we hit some rocks here and there. But we're still holding hands. You literally
do hold hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were just walking down the street. So you were going to do the mission. I knew about that, but I didn't realize that you were seriously thinking about, as a couple, going to like a foreign land.
Not as a couple. We were individuals.
Oh, I see. So when you met each other, fell in love so quickly, got married, were you still thinking we would go and do missionary work as a family? Or you're at that point, you're like, no, we're going to get married and raise a family now? To tell you the truth, we had no clue. We really had no clue. One day at a time.
We just got married, and here we are. So, yeah, this kind of unorthodox way to proceed.
It's
but
beautiful.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did. So,
but you were both trusting God. That was
absolutely
the key.
100%,
Yeah.
1000%. And I knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that faith was paramount for him and for me. And that helped. That is the foundation. But beyond that, it is good to work out some details.
Every once in a while, I find a small business that I fall absolutely in love with. And that's why I'm so excited to share We Heart Nutrition with you guys. WeHeartNutrition.com is a vitamin and supplement company that provides the highest quality, researched back ingredients, customized and optimized to help you be healthy. What I also love about We Heart Nutrition is that this is a family-owned company, and they donate a full 10% back of all of their revenue to pregnancy resource centers to help moms and babies in need. So whether you are premenopausal or postmenopausal, whether you're looking to conceive, help improve your fertility, whether you're pregnant, and this is a great prenatal vitamin, or you're postnatal. Plus, I'm very excited to share this with my husband. Now We Heart Nutrition has come out with their first line of men's vitamins. And if you order today at WeHeartNutrition.com, get your vitamins, you can get 20% off using the code Lila. And if you spend at least $50, you will get a free signature bamboo capsule vitamin box. So go to WeHeartNutrition.com today, use the code Lila at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. And when you spend $50, get that adorable free bamboo capsule box to store your vitamins in. That's WeHeartNutrition.com. What would be your best advice for marriage?
For marriage?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
I admire very, very much how you faithfully have served and loved our family and Dad. And you treat Dad so well. I need to treat my husband better. I mean, if I can treat him a little bit the way you treat Dad, I will be doing well. I mean, you're very devoted to my dad.
I've grown in my understanding of marriage. I think, sadly, because of the spirit of the age, many young women go into marriage thinking, oh, this is going to solve all my problems. Someone finally loves me, and life is going to be all roses and just beautiful because I found my Prince Charming. And I might have had a little bit of that with your dad initially. But as I've grown in my understanding of marriage, it really is your sanctification. Marriage assists in your sanctification, and becoming Catholic or reverting back to my Catholic faith has helped me understand that more and to really live what that means. And, things that maybe drove me crazy about Dad 25 or 30 years ago are just funny now. And it's a blessing to just chuckle together about our weaknesses and know that he can finish a sentence that I begin, and I can finish his sentence. So it's really that knowing one another and realizing the small stuff doesn't matter. It's the big stuff. And that humor is a real medicine. I think sometimes we take each other's weaknesses or offenses too seriously instead of just looking at one another as we're both just journeying on this life together, and we want to spend eternity with God, and we want to grow in virtue and become more humble and more servant-like, and just give each other grace for just in every way possible. And of course, forgiveness and just lightheartedness. It really, those things go a long way in a marriage. And just understanding where the other person needs extra grace and extra help to grow and to thrive. And that comes over years. That takes years. And it's difficult, as I'm sure many people would agree. But there's just joy in it. When you embrace hardship and challenge in relationships, it can yield a lot of good fruit and joy. But it does take time. So I would say, did you ask me what advice I would give? I would say be patient, forbearing, forgiving one another just as God has forgiven you. I mean, I think that's from the Bible.
Yes.
Yeah. And don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, good.
Or your partner or husband, wife, as they call it partner nowadays, which just grinds my gears. But your husband or wife, just Christ died for them, as well as yourself and your children. And that's a whole other area where you can grow just in raising children. It's very sanctifying to be married and to raise children as well, as you have discovered, I'm sure.
A tiny little bit. I'm way behind you, obviously.
Yeah.
I watch you parent. I watched you. Obviously, you parented me, of course, and then my siblings through the teen years and all the craziness that can come with that, and young adult years, and the craziness of the culture, and just watching how you and Dad together navigate all of the beauties and challenges of it. I haven't like made the list myself. I probably should do this of what I'm observing that you do that I want to make sure I do. But the imprint that I have the privilege of receiving is there. So I know that's going to help me when my kids, as my children grow, because I have that imprint from you and Dad about, with faith in faith, navigating the growth trajectories of 8 souls. And now you have 6 children-in-law, 6 sons and daughters-in-law, a 7th on the way. My youngest sister just got engaged. Only one brother not married yet, but that's a lot of people. And then you've obviously all the grandchildren. You're very involved in their life as well, in their lives, all 20 plus grandkids. So I guess I'm saying is you're giving this advice, which is very beautiful, and I'm receiving it. But my biggest blessing is getting to just watch you osmosis wise, just live life with Dad and seeing how you guys operate. And I know and I don't just have that privilege. There are many, many people in the community who have that privilege because you guys are so generous. You're involved in so many activities. You have so many people over to your home. You're always giving, giving, giving. So there's a lot of people who have your model to look to, whether they consciously realize it or not. And it's making this beautiful impact.
Well, by God's grace. Yeah. Well, we can certainly, hopefully, and my hope and prayer for my children is to take the good things and leave aside the not so good and to do better. That's my prayer, is that people who interact with me and that people who maybe are my friends, in my circle, that they can take something of value with them, knowing me, and then just leave the not so good, especially my children. I hope that you can, because no family is perfect. And I'm sure Dad and I could tell you and everybody else what not to do when you're raising children. We have a long list of that. So yeah, we're all journeying together, and gratitude, just grateful. I'm so grateful for just the years that I've been given. I'm astounded that I've made it this far. It's very
You're young, Mama. You're got a lot of years left.
I'm very grateful. My grandson said to me, just in the last couple days, 4 years old, Grandma, why are you so old? He's fascinated with age. And it's really a gift to grow old. It is. And to have memories and to have dreams even, as God gives you more and more years. So I'm grateful for that. And that's another sort of key to marriage and child raising is just gratitude, just to work on that gratitude muscle. I think we can be so affluent and we have so many things and so many opportunities that I think people can struggle with being grateful just for what they have. And so, especially in their relationships. And I think that, with our children and our spouse and our circle and our friends, family, just to nurture that gratitude and exercise the gratitude muscle empowers you to do more and more. That's what I try to do.
Did you know that over 140,000 U.S. family farms have closed down since 2017? When you go to the grocery store, your meat and poultry products often will say product of the USA, but did you know that 90% of them are actually not from the USA? They're imported in and then they slap that label on product of the USA. Here's how Good Ranchers is solving that problem. Good Ranchers is American meat delivered with meat sourced 100% from the United States. Every cut of beef, chicken, pork, and fish from Good Ranchers is sourced 100% from the USA. Good Ranchers meat is also free from hidden additives. No antibiotics ever. No added hormones and no seed oils. And now GoodRanchers.com has their Spring into Action offer for $40 off your order plus a free add-on for an entire year. You can get free bacon, ground beef, seed oil-free chicken nuggets, or wild-caught salmon as a free add-on with your monthly subscription. Plus, using the code Lila, you'll get $40 off your order. Use the code Lila at GoodRanchers.com. When you were having all 8 kids, so you had first kid 9 months after getting married, you had 8 children, 4 miscarriages, and you were doing this. It wasn't an easy life. I mean, again, I was the beneficiary. I just got to be the kid, but observing it, you worked really hard. Dad worked really hard. You didn't come from a bunch of wealth that your physical needs. You guys worked, Dad worked to provide for the family really hard. You started out life in your parents' home and then a 1-2 bedroom apartment or
a 2-bedroom little bungalow,
1920s little house. And so you worked every bit of the way. And then homeschooling us was this other huge project because it wasn't like there was this homeschool community that you could plug into. You had to build it from scratch. And in addition to that, correct me if I'm wrong on the details here, but growing up in the church that we were raised in, again, beautiful church, but there were no other big families. They were all kind of having 2, 3, maybe 4 at the most kids. You were kind of this anomaly. And so there was also just dealing with pressures where people kind of sometimes even looked down on you for that. There was a kind of a question of like, why are they having 8 kids? And you were also homeschooling. So that was a little bit unusual, but you just pioneered all of that. And you didn't have like a model on, you didn't have this model. Like for me, I have you as a model. I have these other models that I can admire, these saints and other people that I think are just doing this beautiful job. From what I understand, you didn't have some clear-cut model of what you were going after. You were just chasing beauty and chasing goodness and chasing truth together. Am I getting any facts wrong about
that's about right. There was a group of us that we kind of stumbled around together. It was a very different homeschooling environment in the early 90s than it is now. And we, in a sense, were pushing back against the culture. Public school, which had its challenges in those days. Now it's such a different world. I can't even imagine when I think of the challenges we faced at that time in history compared to what the world is facing now. It's night and day. Our problems were so minor compared
Really?
to where the culture has gone. Let
It's
me
gotten
say.
much worse. You're
It's
saying.
gotten really way out. So
What was it,
so
by the way, in the early 90s when you were starting homeschooling us? What was it in the public school system or the schools that you and Dad thought we don't want to be
it
part
was
of this?
sort of the whole, they don't allow prayer in public schools. That was big. And you had to separate your church life. It was this compartment. Over here was faith, and then school was over here, and there was no
integration.
There was no integration. And we thought about Christian school, but it wasn't in our economy to do Christian school.
Private school is too expensive.
With the number of children, and we weren't Catholic, so we didn't consider Catholic school. And it was really just what's left. And of course, your dad, he was always for homeschooling. He told me we were going to do it when our oldest was like 2 or 3. He just said, by the way, our kids will be homeschooled. And I went to public school, so I had no clue what he was talking about.
What did you say? Who's doing that?
I said, are you, what? Homeschool?
Where did
I
Dad
never
get
heard
that idea.
Who knows? I asked him. I don't know, but he was adamant. We're going to just do it. So I agreed to do it 1 year at a time. And it just kind of grew from there. It was just, all right, here we are. Let's try it. What can happen? That's so horrible. Kindergarten, we'll do it. And so we did that. But we did stumble around together, and it wasn't ideal because there wasn't a lot of support. You know, the community, the homeschoolers found each other. California was a friendly place to homeschool, which is a blessing. Compared to other states at the time. But we did stumble. We learned from each other. We made mistakes. We shifted gears a lot. And then we formed little groups, and we formed little classes in our house. And Dad would teach earth science, or he'd teach geometry, and we'd invite students in, and then it grew from there. But it was very countercultural to do homeschooling back then. Now it's very mainstreamed, but it was very different.
Do you think it was the combo of Dad, who's kind of a genius? Mm-hmm. You're a genius too, but Dad's he's very intellectual, and he's just sort of, big ideas, big thinkers. So it was Dad being that way, and then you being also very brilliant and also just very administratively, you just do stuff. I can't even describe to the listeners like my mother, my amazing mother, but you're always, when I call you, you're technically an empty nester now, effectively. But when I call you, you're always doing an activity to serve somebody, invite people over with the family. You don't just hang out and garden. I mean, you do garden too. You have a garden, but you just always have an activity. So anyways, I digress. But the point is you're this administrative wonder and very high energy and doing all of these beautiful things. And then Dad has these big ideas, which you have too. And you guys get together, and then you walk to the beat of your own drum. And you're like, let's just dive in. Let's just do homeschooling now in, San Jose, California.
Yeah. Dad's amazing in that he is the smartest man I've ever known. I still say that. Last night we were at dinner, and Molly said, okay, Grandpa knows everything about science. You can ask him anything you want. And that was the conversation. So they were talking about solar flares and all this stuff that just was way over my head. But Dad loves knowledge, learning, and I could see those gifts from the get-go. And so I learned how to harness and use his gifts to help propel our projects forward. So in that sense, it was a really good compliment. So when we were writing, for example, the bylaws for the different groups that we started, Dad would write the bylaws. I knew they had to be written. So I had that little gift.
I have a childhood memory of that. You telling Dad, you're the genius, you write the bylaws.
And Dad would do it and do it so well. And I would just be so, and he was very willing to do it, even though he had his full-time job and he worked so hard. In a way, it was a creative outlet for him, as well as for me, our different projects that we could do together. So that was an extra blessing in our sort of journey together, was to do projects and create things. Nothing that either of us anticipated would ever happen, but it just, we kind of fell into it. And it's been a wild ride. It really has. So, yeah, we're working on things even to this day. So God is good.
Some of your biggest projects are in front of you in terms of building things, which we can talk about that too. But I think that takeaway for me is you have this natural gift, but you're intentional about using it too. It's not like you just happen to have it and then it just happens to happen sometimes. But you see other people's gifts. You do this with me all the time. To this day, you're my number one encourager. Besides my husband, who also does this with me, and I'm so grateful, Joe, for you doing that with me. But you see people's gifts and you just encourage them. Like, you're good at this, you do this, or you got this, you can do it. You're always just encouraging. And I see that with Dad, that you've helped to unlock things that Dad has now done that serves a lot of other people beyond our family. Because you're like, you're the genius, you write the bylaws, or, you're so good at science, math, whatever, you can teach the class or whatever it is. And these are things Dad enjoys too, because they are gifts. Usually people enjoy the gifts that they're given and they multiply them by continuing to work at them, right? Mm-hmm. So you do that with everybody.
Well, with my children and with my community, if I can, and I'm sure Dad feels this way too, if we can put them or assist them to grow in some way, like, for example, with your live action, just being the small part that we had in live action, allowing you to have a meeting in our living room, for example, when you were 14 or 15, and, helping you serve a little snack to your friends, just small things. And just to watch you grow and flourish in that, it becomes part of our, success. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but it gives us joy to see you doing something that you love and that you're passionate about, and that we can be a small part of. So, and similarly with your siblings and all their projects, it's a privilege. It's exciting to see you all create things and throw your lives into something. And if we can help enable that, help you to do that, even in a small way, it's like we're doing it with you. It's very fulfilling. That's something that drives me, is to see others use their gifts, because it almost feels like I'm part of it. And I don't know if that's ego, if it's pride. I mean, I've thought about that. Is this like a pride thing? But I do know that my mother, who had very little education, she dropped out of school in the 8th grade.
Why?
To go work in a factory, because she was very poor. But when we did well in school, she felt like she was doing well in school. And it gave her so much joy. And it gave me joy to see my mom at 48 get her high school diploma. That was something very special, to help her with her spelling and help her with her math so that she could finally graduate high school. So I think I got that from my mom and my dad, that they were children of immigrants, and they were very humble beginnings. to see their children grow it gave them a lot of joy. And I think they passed that on to us. And they modeled it because my mother, she got her driver's license when she was 50. She got her 50. We grew up on the trolley, even from in Boston. And she was an inspiration from where she came to do what she did. She was very inspiring.
She must have been blown away when you graduated college, and Aunt Kathy.
She was so proud.
Her eldest daughter graduates college and becomes this very successful woman, and you so successful, all these beautiful children.
And my dad was a businessman, even though he came from nothing. He developed and grew a business, and we all helped with the business. So I did get I think I got some administrative skills from my dad.
And he never went to college either.
No. Mm-mm.
So were you the first?
World War II veteran, and then he went to work for the family, and that was his lot in life. And he made the best of it. He really did. Worked very hard. He was a hero in many ways, my dad.
He is a hero, Grandpa.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, he's now passed, but so smart, like very talented man, but very devoted to his family. His whole life was his family.
He had high standards too. So it is good. He would say, push your kids, but don't push them too hard, which is kind of a rephrasing of, don't provoke your child to anger. He had a lot of life skills that were just passed down, I think, culturally, because he was Italian. And I think a lot of sort of Christian themes were ingrained in him, even though they weren't a very practicing Catholic family. I think it was difficult for them coming from Italy and adapting to the culture, but he had a lot of, I would say, biblical ways of managing his life. And he was very balanced, considering the tools that he was given, which were, limited compared to what's available to us today.
You often say that to me, which is you express this idea of people doing the best they have with the tools that they've been given. That's a phrase you've said my whole life as a way to understand other people and help them ultimately, as well as understand ourselves and help us. And it's a very forbearing view, but also very positive view of other people, to say they're doing the best, or maybe they only are doing what they know to do with what they've been given. And then identifying, especially if you're the mother or you're the friend, how do I encourage this person towards their full potential, basically? Is that what Grandpa had, that approach? So you got that from him, maybe?
I really do. Kind of makes me ponder, people who rely on therapy, and this need to sort of go back and heal everything that's happened in the past, and there's that's very useful, and it's a good thing to aspire to. But at some point, we just have to live. We have to move forward with the hurts, the pains, the tools, the lack of tools, whatever. We want to just really, really aspire to move forward and to do better, and not to look back so much as to what wasn't there, but to take what was there and build upon it and improve upon it. And I think that kind of ties in with serving others and being more outward in our focus instead of inward, all the things that are wrong. And I think what ails a lot of young people today is purpose. And you've talked about this a lot. just why are we here? What are we living for? Are we living to, look inside ourselves and right every wrong that's been done to us or figure it all out? Or are we just going to look outside of ourselves and be thankful for what we do have and just move forward in our lives and try to improve upon what we have been given and whatever healing that we have experienced, be thankful for that and trust that God is going to work it out and he's going to be with us every step of the way, no matter what our past hurts or disadvantages or whatever we've had. We can still move forward. And I think that that's kind of the immigrant spirit. They leave the old country behind and they leave the picking the olives behind and they forge. My grandfather's family was, they grew olives and they were peasants in Italy. And then he came to the United States when he was 15 and he built the railroads. He did manual labor. He built the railroads. And then he drove a horse-drawn buggy and he brought coal to homes to heat them and ice for in the summer, coal in the winter. And he just moved forward and had a family and he couldn't look back because he had to move forward. And I think all of us, we have that opportunity. So much more opportunity today to do that. So he was a great model. And I don't know how I digress, but
I love that.
What was the question?
I don't remember the question, but that was a good. It makes me think we're very, in the modern era, we can get very focused on ourselves, of course. And then the constant sort of question of like trauma, healing from our childhood. And I will admit, I think, dwelled in this in the past too much too. Even writing, I look back on my book, Fighting for Life, which I wrote now, I think has it been 5 years that I wrote that book? Or maybe it's been, I think it's 5 years now. I wrote Fighting for Life. It was published 4 years ago, but I wrote it 5 years ago. Anyways, and I remember discussing it with you. And you were saying, well, this is how you see your life and your activism and your journey at this time. So it's authentic to who you are today. You were very, you gave me your blessing because I shared some personal things in the book, as well as obviously the trajectory of my pro-life work. But I remember you making some comment, you might look back at this differently in the future. And even just 4 years later, I'm like, there were things I would tweak in my retelling of events. Not that I would change what happened, because what happened, but it's more that I think in my 20s as a younger woman, I was much more focused on, figuring out myself, knowing my strengths and weaknesses, understanding my childhood, figuring out what I wanted for the future. They're not bad questions. They're good questions to explore. We talk about them on this show. But to your point, you can go down these journeys of self-introspection too much, too far, instead of identifying the truth and moving forward, always forward, like the immigrant, like you're saying. That's also, by the way, St. Junipero Serra's phrase, always forward, always forward, always
Amen.
forward. Anyways, you can, it can be a modern issue to dwell too much on one's wounds.
Yeah.
And we should know a sense of our wounds, our weaknesses, offer them to God. If we need psychological help for something, you and Dad have been very much supportive of psychological help, healing, physical depression, things like that. That's all part of a package.
Right.
But there can be an overmuch tendency to focus on one's perceived slights, wounds, even faults, whatever it is. And the best way at the end of the day to heal and become who we're created to be is forward motion towards God and in service of other people, because that God ends up filling up our identity. God ends up making us who we're called to be. And we learn God through devotion to him in our hearts and our minds and our activities and to other people. So anyways, that's a very long-winded way of saying what you already expressed beautifully, but I'm learning, as I'm getting older, I'm seeing the value of that. And I just look at the remarkable difference between your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation, what I know of them, you and Dad, even your generation, and some of the issues in my generation and now like the up and coming Gen Z generation. And we can all learn from each other. Yes. But I think we're so we have so much material stability, so many opportunities, so much freedom right now. The big question is, of course, what are we going to do with what we've been given?
Right.
Or are we going to complain or compare or dwell or brood on, the things that we don't like or the things that we think are holding us back?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to have that immigrant pioneering spirit about moving forward and creating beautiful things for God? I don't know. I mean, it's an ongoing lesson we have to learn.
I remember thinking for a bunch of years, looking back on my childhood and my parents and realizing everything that they did wrong, like I knew, and just asking myself, did they really do the best that they could? Couldn't they have done this or that or this or that? And why didn't they this and so forth? And then you get to a point where it's like a revelation. You realize, yes, they did the best they could with the tools that they were given. And that gives so much peace because there's nothing to regret at that point when you look at your own parents and your own formation as it was what it was. And they did the best that they could because we don't know what challenges they faced. We don't know what traumas they had. We don't know what contributed to their failures or their successes. And it's kind of futile to go down that path, as you stated so eloquently, instead of moving forward. There's so much more fruit in moving forward and being grateful for what was good and nurturing that.
I think there's a lot of people who don't even want to have kids today, or they're afraid of, certain commitments because of the trauma or the mistakes or just the world as it is and all of its imperfections. And I think what's so beautiful about your approach to life is that it's always a yes to life. Yes to the extra baby. Yes to the extra friend. Yes to the extra person at the dinner table. It is truly life in full abundance.
And I would add to that, with Christ as our model, he's the ultimate unconditional lover of our souls. And if we can just model that in a small way, especially with our children, because I think sometimes the ego of the parent can get very mixed up with the successes or failures of the children. And that's a very toxic path to go down. But to look at our children as Christ looks at us, to love them, to aspire to love them unconditionally as Christ loves us, and our spouses as well, our husbands, wives, friends, family, everyone. That unconditional love is just so soul, it's life-giving to the soul. And Jesus is our model for that. So
thanks for loving me that way, Mama.
Oh, I try to.
You do.
That's what I would hope to do.
You do.
Every day. And I hope that I know that you're going to do that with your children.
And everything that I have done, whether it's my education, my faith, I have done, I have. The gifts that I have, I should say, because they're given to me. But it's you and Dad. Life Action, what we've been able to build because of your support. This podcast, cheering it on when we had nobody listening, and you were listening. Thank you.
Well, people will say to me, aren't you so proud of Lila? And I am so proud of you, but I'm much more blessed than I am proud. I can't even explain it in words. You've been such a blessing, even from little toddler, such a blessing. You were always so eager to please and to engage. And I remember you, so many pregnancies, because you were number 3, right? So there were so many pregnancies. And as you grew, you would take care of me. You would fluff up my pillows at night before I went to bed and rub my feet. And you just were just so loving. And it was, I can't imagine a first daughter more wonderful than you. You were beautiful in every way. And I'm so thankful for that.
I love you, Mama.
You were a good girl.
I'm trying to be.
No, you were. You are a good girl.
Back in the day.
And Gigi's going to be a good girl,
my little
too.
daughter. She's a firecracker.
She's
my
a
1-year-old.
She's so sweet. It's delightful to see you in her and also to see Joe in her.
She's tough like her dad.
She's a good one, Gigi.
I love you, Mama. Thank you for talking with me. We're going to do a part 2 if that's okay.
Oh, whatever you want.
We only got so far this episode.
Whatever you want.
Thanks so much for watching this episode with my mom. I hope you enjoyed it. Show it some love if you enjoyed it, because I want to get her back on the show, and she's very kind of self-conscious about doing media, which is because she's such a beautiful, humble person. But anyways, I want her back in the show. So tell us if you like this episode. Also, you can show your support by going over to rosereport.supercast.com. We actually have an additional 30-minute interview with my mom there with Q&As from you guys. So we got questions from our social media followers, the show's account. You guys sent your questions. I asked them of my mother. Got a little personal. It was a lot of fun. You can go watch that over at rosereport.supercast.com by becoming a subscriber. Thank you so very much for your support. It means the world to me. And I'll see you over at rosereport.supercast.com. And a huge thank you to EWTN, Eternal Word Television Network, which is the largest religious broadcaster in the world. You can get access to Lila Rose Show episodes 24 hours in advance at EWTN.com/on-demand. And a big thank you to EWTN and their incredible mission to bring souls to Jesus.